First of all, open the sample application. It is on the http://192.168.168.111 port. And here we will need the MySQL directory. We need the SQL1 example, and here is the sql.html. Here is a simple classic logon screen. I will show you the source code of it. Go to the SQL1. Here is the sql.html, what I opened just. And as you can see, it's a simple login screen. It has a title. It creates a form. It will call the sql.php when you press the button with method post. It prints the username text. After that it put an input box with text type, and the name and the ID of it will be username, and it has a quite huge size to have enough space here. Then prints password. It will be a password box, so it will hide what you types. The ID of it will be password and the name of it will be password, and there is nothing more in it. There will be a submit button to send all the data. The text of it will be sent, and this is the whole form, and this is the whole HTML. Let's see what does the sql.php do. Okay, here it is. First of all, it includes the db.php. In the db.php there is nothing interesting. There is just some value configuration. Our database is called as A. Our user will be the root. It has no password by default, and the MySQL license on the 127.0.0.1 IP address. So it's include the constants, and after that we are able to connect by the help of the MySQL connect to the previously defined by the help of the previously defined values. If the connection was unsuccessful, then we print the connection error text and die with the error details. If the connection was successful, then we are going to build a query here, and it will be something like select star from table where username equals, and here we simply substitute what the user sent to us. This is the problem, because there is not any filtering. End of the string and password equal apostrophe, and after that we substitute what the user sent us apostrophe. Again, we did not do any filtering, so most probably it will be vulnerable. End of the string, end of the SQL command. Then we run this query on the previously defined connection, and the result will go to this statements variable. If it is equal with false, so it was not able to run because of some reason, then we print error during query execution, print the detail error message, and die. If we got some result, then we will separate it to parts by the help of MySQL fetch array, and we will create an associative array from it. The result will be put to the $row variable. If it has some value, then we print log getIn and then stop the application. Otherwise, we print wrong username or password and stop the application. So it is a simple login screen. We can log in or can't log in based on the result. Okay, I close them. First of all, try this application. I come here and type something as username, something as password. Send it wrong username or password. Then I type the username name and the password pass and send it. I can log in, so it works as expected. Now let's try to figure out how we can enter to this site without knowing any username or password and/or password. Basically what happens here, we have a select star from some table where username equal something and password equal something else. And what we are capable, we can write anything instead of the Y's and instead of the X's. So we have to figure out what to write here to be able to log into this web page. First of all, what we have to do. Our problem is that if we type anything here, as you can see, it will be a string. So we are able to log in only if we can figure out some username or password. It is not good for us, but we have the idea, if we were able to write some SQL instruction, then maybe it were easier to enter to this site. But how to write SQL instructions? First of all, we have to break out from this string. How to break out from the string? Very simple. As you can see, the string marker is the apostrophe. So just simply type here some apostrophe. And after that, what I am writing, that's a SQL instruction. For example, I type here select, and you see it is recognized. Okay, so if I type apostrophe, then I am able to break out from the string. Let's test this theory. I come here to the username, for example, and print here an apostrophe and send it. Error during query execution, you have an error in your SQL syntax, check manual blah blah blah, and we got a nice error message. If you get something like this, then most probably you are on a good way. Let's try to continue. What to write here to be able to log into this website? What I have to do is to make this query true. How I am able to make it true? First of all, I have to use an expression which is always true, for example 1 equal 1. It is an always true expression, that's very nice, but I have to use here some logical operator to make the whole expression become true. And as you know, the logical operator OR works on the way, if any side of the OR is true, then the whole expression will become true. So, because the 1 equal 1 is always true, then it is unimportant what is on the other side, the whole expression, so this one, will always be true. So this is what we need. So let's try to do this. I will come here back. I have here the apostrophe, and after that I type space or 1 equal 1 and send it again. I got again a syntax error. It's obvious because if I take a look at this screen, then I can see here is an unnecessary apostrophe here. It is hard-coded to the application, so I cannot make it disappear. So what I can do with it? I have some solutions for it. For example, I can use it for my purposes. Instead of 1 equal 1, I can write apostrophe 1 apostrophe equal apostrophe 1, and I do not write here an apostrophe. So what I type is only this text, like this. I forget practically this last apostrophe because it is already in the application. So let's try what happens if I print it. Print it here, we type it here, then send. Wrong username or password, I was not able to log in. Then let's try what happens if I print it and type it both as password and username. Send. Then I was able to log in. What happens if I type it only as a password? Send. I logged it again. Why it happens? It happens because of the precedence. I copied some more times. So the three cases are, I put it here instead of the x's, put it instead of the y's, and put here instead both of them. So these are the three cases I showed you. In the first case, as you can see, the first logical expression is username equal nothing or 1 equal 1. The 1 equal 1 is always true, So the username nothing or 1 equal 1 will be true. But after it comes an AND, password equal nothing. So by the help of this expression, we were only able to log in if there is at least one user which has no password. But unfortunately in our environment there is no such a user, that's why we were not able to log in. In the second case, let's see what happens. Here is the username equal, I typed there especially nothing, username equal nothing and password equal nothing, and only after comes the or 1 equal 1. So because the execution, the evaluation of the mathematical expression goes from left to right, the or stands at the end, so it is not unimportant what stands at the beginning. If it is false, I don't care, because the or 1 equal 1 is always 2, so the whole expression will be always 2, we will be able to log in. And let's see the third case. In this case, we made both part true. So in this case, of course, we were able to log in again. So these were the three cases. We can write it as username or password for both, and we saw what is the difference between them. Now, go back. The other solution for this problem is to use the comment signs. In SQL, common comment signs are the -, the hash mark, and the /*. So these are the common signs for the comments. And many cases, or some SQL server works on the way they does not accept, for example, the --, because they require something after it, at least a space, and after that anything. It's unimportant what you write here. The most common things in the different books are the --, space minus. So this is usually written in this way. And the same can happen with the hash mark. So in many cases, instead of hash mark, we have to write hash mark, space, and after that anything. You can really write here anything what you want. For example, -sign or some text. So this is how the comments are working in SQL, and let's see how they can help us. For example, I have here again my SQL instruction. Oops. I put it before the marks because it is already a comment. So here, and I had here some x's to fill and some epsilon to fill. So let's see what we can write here. First, we break from the string by the help of apostrophe. And then we can write any SQL instruction. We write again the or 1 equal 1, but now we want to comment the remaining part. Or we can comment the remaining part. Let's try, for example, the -, sign. To be more exact, it works in this way, because it is in one line. So as you can see, this part is commented. So it is absolutely unimportant what you write as a password or what is the password, because the SQL server even will not check it because it is only a comment. Or, as another example, instead of the -, you can use the -, space minus, or you can use the hash mark and the space. And the hash mark space something. Hash mark space anything. And the last one is the /*. Here it does not accept the hash mark as comment sign, but it is unimportant. Let's check what happens in the SQL server. So I write here apostrophe or 1 equal 1 -. This is my first try, and I send it. I will get an error message. Okay, it doesn't work. Then I try -, space minus, send it, I logged in, so it is working. Then I use the hash mark, send, I logged in, so it is working. Hash mark something, send, it is working also. And I use the /star, send, error message, /star space, something, error message again. It is because the /star requires the end, the closing part of it, the star slash. But of course it wouldn't help for us, because then only our text were commented out, and we want to comment out the original text in the sql.php. Okay, so it was how we could log in by the help of the classic logon bypass, and after it we will check how we can do the same by the help of the sqlmap application. First of all, we install the sqlmap, go again to the DVD, and here go to the sqlmap directory, or download it from the internet. It's sqlmap.org, and here just simply copy paste the sqlmap. It's again a portable application. I rename it to sqlmap because it has a too long name. I don't want to type so much. And the other thing, what we have to install, it is written in Python, so we need a Python interpreter. It can be found in the www.python.org. It's here. I will use the version 2.7.8 because it does not work with the 3.4.1 version, or at least when I tested it, it was not working. Install for all users. Next. You have to change the @python exec to pass, because it will be simpler to run in this way. And we have to wait a bit. Oh, it's finished. Great. And now we have our sqlmap on the computer. It's a command line application, so just open a command line and go to this directory, cd/sqlmap. Here is the sqlmap.py. If you just run it, it prints the basic usage. And as you can see, there is the -h for the help and the -hh for the detailed help. I use the -hh. -hh, and it prints the help. Let's see how we can use it. First of all, we have some URL. Yes, -u, can give a URL, what to test. And because this application uses a post method, if you take a look to the source, you can use it uses the post method. And we have some data to send, the username and the password. So these are the two data what we are going to send, and we will send it to the sql.php. Okay. So what we have to write is the following: sqlmap.py --url equals, and the URL is http://192.168.168.111 column, it is on the port 8800/mysql/sql1/sql.php. Be careful, you test not the HTML but the PHP, because the error is in the PHP, not in the HTML. And you have to post it some data by the help of data. Data equal. We have a username parameter, so type username equal whatever you like, for example a, password equal, type here whatever you write, for example bbb. And we have another switch to give the database type. It is only to speed up the things, because we know now it is a MySQL application. So I can use the -dbms MySQL. dbms equal MySQL. And that's all. We can give it some more switches. The two most important ones are the level and the risk. If I find them, here they are. Level. You have to give here a number from between 1 and 5. If you give a higher number, then it will do more tests. And the risk, you can type here a number. It says from 0 to 3, but for me the 0 was never working, so maybe it is from 1 to 3. And it practical how risky test you are able to run. We will set it as level equal 5 and risk equals 3. And that's all. Now we can start the application and see if it finds the error. Page not found. Maybe I mistyped something. SQL1, sorry. It is SQL1 directory. Sorry, not SQL. It was my mistake. Try it again. It's much better now. Then it started the test. And union inject table with 5 columns. Do we want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. Do we want to continue? Yes, test everything. And before or later, it will finish it. To tell honestly, I prefer another way to use the MySQL, because it's quite unpleasant to use. You have to type a lot of things. What I used to prefer is to use the request file. To use it, first of all, you need a request. So to get a request, we will install the burp proxy. It can be found on your tools, and it can be found in the portswigger.net directory. portswigger.net. Here it is. And the burp suite is a Java application, so you just have to copy paste the jar file to your computer. Ctrl+C, go to C drive, Ctrl+V. Here is our jar file, and because it is written in Java, we have to install the Java interpreter. It can be found in the www.java website. And here is the Java. It is 64-bit computer, so I will install the 64-bit version of the Java. And just next, finish to install it. Takes a while. Destination folder of the GRA is fine. And it was successfully installed. If I go back to the C drive, here is my burp suite version 1.6 jar file, and just try to start it. Until that I check if this one is finished, the sqlmap is finished. I accept the license agreement. Now I don't have internet connection, so I don't have to improve. So what I got here, we got some boolean-based SQL injection, some error-based SQL injection, some time-based blind SQL injection, and it is confirmed and whatever. And why we're going to like the sqlmap is the following. If you take a look at the help of the sqlmap, sqlmap -hh, then we have a lot of commands here to get some data. For example, if you want to know what is the database name, then you can use the -- current database switch. Let's try it. So here is our previous command, what we have used, and I just simply add minus minus current slash database db and press enter, and retrieved the database name is A. Yes, we know that it is really A, so it is working fine. And on similar way, we can get, for example, the actual username, current user, root at localhost. It's fine. Similarly, we can query, for example, the tables. The tables can be queried by using the minus minus tables, but if you use only this switch, then it will query every table from every database you have right to. So I will use the minus D and give it the database A, because it's our database only. So minus minus tables, minus capital D, and the name of the database is A. And there is only one table, it is called table 1. Similarly, we are able to query all the columns of this table. It can be done by the minus minus columns. And again, if you use only the minus minus columns, then it means every columns of every tables in every databases you have right to. So I will use the minus D database and minus T table switches to print only the columns of this TBL1 table. Let's see. Minus minus, instead of tables, I will write columns and use the minus capital T and TBL1. Oops. Minus minus columns. I mistype something. Minus minus columns. Then I mistype something. Columns. And it's missing. Yes. So I got the table has those columns. And the last thing what I want to show, if we have a very nice table, then we are able to dump the content of it. It can be done by the help of the dump command. And again, we have to give, or not have to, but if you use the dump only as a simple switch, then it will dump the content of every table in every database you have right to. It is a bit too much, so that's why I will have to use the minus capital D database and the minus capital T table switches. So I will use the minus minus dump and dump the content of this table 1. Yes, it is dumped the content of it, as you can see, and also it is analyzed the content, and it found there are some password hashes, most probably. Those are these values, and it asks you if you want to try to crack them. Let's try it. Sorry, right? Here it is. Do some dictionary-based attack. Yes, do some dictionary-based attack. I will use the default dictionary file because I don't have now a separate dictionary. Do you want to use common suffixes? Now I don't want to use because it is a bit slower. And it will start to crack them. Crack a password, there is one. And hopefully there will be the others as well. Here are they. So what I got is the user ID, username. Okay, now the password is stored in clear text as well. Just to show you it really works. The description, here is the encrypted password. And as you can see, the sqlmap was able to decrypt it correctly. Here is the pass2. It has the password AAA. And here the same. It was working fine. So This is one way to use the sqlmap. Then the other way, as I mentioned, to use some request file. To create some request file, we need a proxy. I will use the burp proxy, the free edition of it. First of all, go to the proxy tab, and here go to the options. Here you can check that it will listen on the port 127.0.0.1 and at the port 8080. And it is running now. Okay, if it is running, then I set up my browser, my Internet Explorer, to use this burp proxy. I go to the Tools Internet options and go to the Connections, LAN settings, and I use the 127.0.0.1 and the port 8080 as proxy. Okay, apply. Okay, now I started to use the proxy. I go back to the burp proxy, go to the proxy intercept tab, and now the intercept is on, so it will intercept all the requests. There, honestly, now it doesn't really need us, because I don't want to edit it, so for the faster work, I just press it to intercept is off. And now I come here again. I reload this page. And I type here anything. Let's say that I'm testing a web page. I don't know what is this field. I don't know what is that field. I just type something and press on the send. Order to store no. Wrong username or password. Who cares? I go back to the burp proxy, and now you can go to the HTTP history, or you can go to the target, which one you prefer, it's unimportant. For example, now I stay here, and here is my MySQL, SQL1, and here is the SQL PHP, and I posted a message to the SQL.php. Here is the content of it, this is what I wanted to get. Or you can find the same here, exactly the same. So I have here this request, right click on it and go to the copy to file. I will copy it to a file, go to the sqlmap, and I will create here request1.txt file. Save it, and we are finished until now. I go back to the sqlmap directory and check this request file. It is here. I open it. As you can see, here is my text. Now what we have to do is to change the username for this something to a star, and the password from this something, let's see these placeholders, just recognize them, to a star. Because the sqlmap will look for the star and it will substitute the SQL instruction instead of the stars. So we save it, X, and come here. Let's see how we can use this request file. We have to use the sqlmap again, the -hh, sorry, give us the help. And if you go up to the beginning of the help, here is the -r request file. This is the switch what we have to use. And let's start to use it. sqlmap -r and request 1.txt. It's chosen. And we want to set the database just to speed up the search. --db ms = MySQL. It is not mandatory, but it's faster in this way. And I use the --liver = 5 and the --risk = 3 to test everything. So practically these are the switches what I want to use now. And let's test it. It started, it says it found some star characters. So do you want to do the injection on those positions? Yes, that's why I put it there. And it started to test. Now it again, it has found a union SQL injection. Let's go further to test everything. Yes, test everything. The parameter 1 is injectable. Continue the test. The parameter 2 is also vulnerable. Continue the test. I just want to test everything. Okay, and it is running for some minutes. Okay, the test is finished. So you can see it found two positions. The position 1 and 2, both of them is injectable. I will choose to use the number 0. It will be my default position. Okay. We found the injection points. Now we are able to do the same what we have already done. Let's query, for example, our database by the help of --current DB switch. After that, query the tables, then the columns of our table, and then dump the content of our table. We will use these switches, and of course these two additional switches like before. So I just used the same command like before. Oh, sorry. It was my command to use the request file, and now I use the --current DB switch. And the sqlmap works on the way it records to a database what it found. So in this case it does not run the test again because it is already recorded to the database. Sometimes it is not good, but most of the time it is good. And it asks me which position I want to use. I want to use the 0 position. And it says me the database name is A. Okay, it was already in the database, so it didn't have to query it. And I query the tables -D from the database A. Yes, I want to use the positions, and I want to use the 0 position. And it prints me there is one table, it is called table 1. And I want to list the columns of this table. Columns of this table. So I used -tbl1. Yes, printed. And I use the parameter position 0 again. Here are the column names. Again, it was already in the database, so in reality it doesn't query anything. And I can dump this table. Yes, dump it. I will use the 0. Again, here are the results. And I want to correct them. Yes, dictionary-based.doc will be fine. And here are the results. Again, now it was very fast as you recognize because in reality it just gave me back the result from the database. If you do it in reality, sometimes this database recording is not good because if you go back after some days, you will only get back the same data from the sqlmap, and maybe you are wondering that there is no changes. So you can purge the database by the help of --purge output. And it will delete all the content, so all the findings and all the dumped data, and you can start it again. There is some changes, for example. So this is how you can use some basic introductions to the sqlmap, and after that we will do some other testings. It will be done by the help of the burp suite. We will do some semi-automated tests. So the next test is to use the burp suite as a semi-automated tool to test this application. First of all, again, we have this recording, what we have already done. and right click on it and send to the intruder. Here is the intruder module, and here you can set the target. It is the 192, 168, 168, 111 and port 8888. Then go to the positions. Here you can choose which positions the burp must test. For example, you can select this AAA position, like here. This is the username and password. It is already selected by default, but if you want to test some additional positions, for example the language, here, then you just select it and use the add paragraph sign to select it. If you don't want to test some position, then you simply clear this one, or you can just use, for example, in case of the user agent, just put here a paragraph sign and to the end a paragraph sign, and instead of this text there will be the test cases added. So again I clear it. So you select the positions what you want to test. Now the default is good for me, and then you can select the attack type. The attack type by default is the snipper. It means first if we substitute all the test cases to the first position and leave the second position as BBB. Of course, if you were more positions here, then those will also leave on the default value. Then, when all the test cases are tested, then it will leave it the first position as a default value, AAA, and after the change, start to substitute here the different values from the test cases. So the first test case, the second test case, third test case, and so on. The other one were the buttering one. It substitute here the first test case and here the first test case also. Here the second test case, here the second test case. So the same test case for all the parameters at the same time. There is the pitchfork. In this case you are able to define different test cases for the different positions. So you can use here test case 1 and here from another file the test case 1. And then here from the first file the test case 2, and here from the second file the test case 2. So you are able to define many test case sets. And the last one is the cluster bomb. This is practically the cross multiplication. So for example, if you have a username and password files, then you can start to substitute here the usernames and here the passwords, and we'll do it on the way. Substitute here the first element from the first file and the first element from the second file. First element from the first file, second element from the second file. First element from the first file, third element from the second file, and so on. Then it changes. Second element from the first file, first element from the second file. Second element from the first file, second element from the second file, and so on. So practically it tests every combinations possible. Now the snipper is fine for me. I can go to the payload. Here I can choose from many payloads, for example, simple list, runtime file, illegal Unicode characters, and so on. For me the simple list is perfect now. And I can add here some test cases. If you have the professional version, what I doesn't have now here, then you are able to add the SQL injection tests by simply select it from a list. Or you can do some test cases manually. I just come here, new text document. Name of it will be SQL test.txt. And the content of this file will be something like apostrophe or 1 equal 1, sorry, apostrophe 1 apostrophe equal apostrophe 1. The next one will be apostrophe or 1 equal 1 minus minus, and then comes minus minus space minus, then comes the hash mark, then comes the hash mark space something, then comes the slash star, then comes the slash star something. So these are my test cases. One thing what I forgot to mention, now I deal with the apostrophe as a string marker. Most of the time this is the case, but there can be some SQL server or some application where the string marker is, instead of the apostrophe, the quotation mark. In this case you of course have to use the quotation mark, or to be more exact, in case of testing you have to use both of these. It's a possible solution. So I add this one as well. And every time I type apostrophe or tell apostrophe, of course it can be quotation mark as well in a different situation. Okay, so these are my test cases, not too much. File, save, exit, and I can load this file here. Just press the load button and select the C root directory sql test txt.txt. It was added another txt, and that's all. I have now 14 test cases, and the request count will be 28 because there are two positions, position 1, position 2, so 2 times 14, that's 28. To be more exact, it will be 29 because there will be a baseline request as well. Now let's start the testing. Just click on the intruder menu and start attack. It warns you it is the free version of the burp and it is speed throttled. It won't be so fast, but it's only 28 test cases, so it is fine now. Okay, when it is finished, I recommend you to order it by the length. Order it by the length, because the values have the same length that most probably gave you the same results. So I come here to the first one and check the response, and it states logged in. So it is working. It is working again, working again, working again, working. As you can see, all the same lengths are working. Here is a length change. Wrong username or password, so most probably all these 226 lengths are wrong username or password. As you can see, it's really true. Again. Then so there is a length change again. There is some error message. There is a length chain again. There is an error message, error message, error message, error message, error message. So I tested all the things. These are the solutions for my problem. To substitute for the first position this value, these values, or to the second position these values. And there is another possibility. I close this window. This is the intruder attack window. I close it. There is another possibility in the options what you are able to use. Here is the so-called grep match. Practically it means if it finds some text, then it will show you with a check mark that this text is found. It will be more clear when I show it. First of all, I clear it because there are too many by default. I know that if I am able to log in, then it will print something like logged in. If there is an error message, then it prints something like error. And if there is a wrong username or password, then it prints something like wrong. Yes, add. So I added some values, and I put here a check mark if it is not here to flag the result items if response is matching these expressions. Of course, you are able to use regular expressions. You can set if it is case sensitive or not. Now I don't want it to be case sensitive. Let's check what is the difference. If I start again the attack, okay. The same attack is running, but as you can see, here are some new columns. There is the logged, the error, and the wrong values. And now I am able to order the result, for example, by this logged column. As you can see, here are the good results for me. it is much simpler to find them now. So if you know some text from the good or from the bad pages, or from the error pages, then it's worth to set them in the options as flagged grep match, because in this case you are able to find the correct result quickly. And there is one more thing what I want to show you. In case of the payloads, if you go down, there is a payload processing. It is good for you if the application, for example, does some base64 or some other encoding process. You are able to, because by default it simply substitutes this value. But if the application accepts some base64 encoded values, then it will not work. You are able to add here some encoding, for example, add encode, for example, some base64 encoding, or some URL encoding. Where is this? Yeah, URL encoding. Or you can add some prefix, suffix, much replace again in the test values, and so on, reverse. It can be useful in many cases. And in case of URL encode, which characters to change. Now in my test for complication there is no such a feature, so I don't want to show it, or I cannot show it, but I wanted to mention this as well. So this is how you can use the burp as a semi-automated tool for the testing, SQL injection. Try it if it works for you or not. I don't want to use the burp now, so I simply close it and change my Internet Explorer to not use it anymore. Okay, and now we are going to check some defense mechanisms. Okay, let's check some other cases. What is common when you want to test SQL injections? First of all, go to the exam directory and go to the htdocs, MySQL, and here is the SQL2. And let's see what changed in this application. I added this sql.php with the notepad++, and I can show you. Here is the situation when the programmer uses brackets. As you can see, the programmer put everywhere very nice brackets. So the situation now is the following. I have here this bracket. This bracket, and it's closed before the end, and I have here this other bracket. Okay, again the situation is the same. I have to write here something and here something. What to write here? First of all, I have to break from the string, so I use an apostrophe, and after that I have to write here a SQL expression, for example, or1 equal 1, but it is not good in this way because there is an unnecessary apostrophe here. What I can do, I can use it, so put here some apostrophe as well, then I am able to use it. So this is the situation like before. Or the other possibility is to use some comment signs. Done in this way. In this case, if you are using the comment sign, there is some changes, because as you can see there will be some syntax error. Why? Because you opened here a bracket, here, and you commented the closing bracket, so it will never be closed. So the SQL server obviously will give you an error message. Let's try it. I will go to the sql2/sql.html. This is the other version. If I put here the apostrophe or 1 equal 1 minus minus space minus, it was working earlier, then it is not going to work. I got some error message. What I can do to correct it, if I go back here, what I have to do is to add here a closing bracket like this one. And then, as you can see, here is my nice closing bracket belongs to this opening bracket. Let's check it in this way. And I put it here. Send. I'm logged in. Of course, you can try it with the other comment sign, so you can use it with minus minus, but it is not working in this situation. You can use it with the hash mark. It's working. Then you can use the hash mark space something. Send. It's working. And you can use it with the slash star. What is not working, and the slash star space something, what is not working either. So as we can see, if you close the bucket, it's going to work again. Or the other possibility is to use the original solution, the '1 apostrophe equal '1. I just copied it. If I write it only as username, it doesn't work. If I write it only as password, it's wrong username or password. Now I can. If I put it to both places, send, then I'm logged in. So in this case, it works only if I write the same test case to both positions. Let's see why. First of all, I copy this select and let's see what I get. Now I used the following example, the apostrophe here, and here I didn't write anything. It was the first test case. And then I write here nothing, and here my test case, and finally I added my test case to both positions. So it was the last case. So let's examine the situations. In case of the first one, as you can see, there are some brackets. And it's very nice. I make it true because I use the username equal nothing or 1 equal 1. The 1 equal 1 is always true, so it is unimportant if there is such a user. This expression will be always true. But because of the brackets, the order of the evaluation is changed, so there is some precedence now. And the AND is out of the brackets, so it will examine if there is password nothing. And there is the AND connection between these two, so practically I am able to log in if and only if there is at least one user which has no password. In the other situation, which was working earlier, I put here the apostrophe space or space apostrophe 1 apostrophe equal apostrophe 1. So this is what I type in. In this case, as you can see, the second part of the expression is always true, but there are brackets. So the first expression must be true as well. So I were able to log in only if there is a user without username, which is of course does not happen, can't happen. So that's why now only the third case is working when I make both the expressions true. So this expression is true, this expression is true. So the end here is not a problem because I make an AND connection between two expressions, so it will be true. So in the earlier situation, it was enough to write the OR after the password. So here, because in this case the evaluation were from left to right, so it was false, but the last one was true, so it was okay. But now, because of the brackets, here the precedence is changed. The evaluation order is changed. So this is why I have to write in this case this expression to both places. Again, as we did it earlier, we are able to use the sqlmap for this application as well. So I open a command prompt and go to the sqlmap directory. sqlmap directory, and here start the sqlmap.py and use the -hh to get the help. As you remember, it has two types of usage. The first one is give it some URL by the --URL or small u. And because it is posted, then define the --data. And after that set some level, dbms and whatever we want. All the other possibilities to use the burp. First, again, I'm going to use the URL. So what I'm going to use the sqlmap.py -URL, and I use the HTTP :/192.168.168.111 :8888 /SQL2/SQL dot. Again, be careful, we want to test the PHP, not the HTML. And I want to set the data, which is nothing else, but I want to give the username parameter, which equal, for example, a, comma, the password parameter, which is, for example, let it be b, and -level, let it be 5, -risk, equal, let it be 3. These are the maximum values. And again, I set the -dbms equal my SQL, just to speed up the testing. Okay, if I come back here, I show you the source, view source. You can see here is the sql.php, this is why I used it. And here are the two parameters, username and password. This is why I use them. Okay, now let's run this test. Oops, again I mistyped something. I forgot the MySQL. It's impossible, I always forgot something from the URL. MySQL/. Okay, it started the test. Until it starts, as I mentioned you earlier, I prefer the other way of the usage. Go back to the C drive and start the Burp Suite Free Edition 1.6. And set up my browser to use the Burp Suite. As you remember, it can be checked on the proxy options tab. It is running on the 127.0.0.1 at port 8080. So I set up my browser to use it. Tools, Internet Options, Connections, LAN Settings, and use the proxy. This one. Okay. And I use the proxy. And it is... there is some question. Do you want to check? Of course. Yes. Yes, I want these two. I want to test everything. And it is continued to run. Okay, I reload the page. Oh, sorry, but I forgot proxy intercept. I forgot to turn off the intercept. Why is it so slow? I got it. Still did not change. And instead of the username, I write something like AAA and BBB. It's okay. Send. I don't want to store my password. And here the data sent to my sql.php. Here is the data, and I'm interested about the request. Here is the request, and I use the copy to file, and it will be the request2 application, request2.txt. Yes. So it's recorded. Until that, the first sqlmap is finished. As you can see, it was working, and it found me the possible solutions. And now I try this other version. I use the sqlmap.py minus small r to use the sqlmap request 2.txt minus minus liver equal 5 minus minus risk equal 3 and minus minus dbms equal MySQL. That's all. Oh, and before I start it, let's edit this request 2.txt and give it the positions I want the test to run on this position and on this position. File, save. Let's run it. Okay, it found my stars. Do you want to do the injection on those positions? Yes, of course, that's why I did it. And it starts to run. Do you want the union B? Of course I want. Do you want to test it? Of course I want. Do you want to test the other parameter? Of course I want to. And it works again. Until it runs. If you want to do the semi-automation test, you have to change your payloads a bit. I go to the C drive, and here is my test file, this SQL test.txt. And as you know, now there are brackets, so I have to copy all those test cases and add a bracket to the end. Not for the first, because I shouldn't copy this one, but for the other ones, when there is a comment sign, I have to add a closing bracket. And again, this is not needed, and I have to add it here. Okay, so these are my new test cases, and of course, in general case, you don't know how many brackets will be open, because if it is, for example, some searching site, then maybe there is some very difficult SQL expression and it uses many brackets. So we use 2 brackets as test cases. And 3 brackets as test cases, and so on. That you go up until 6 approximately in case of different applications. For me 3 will be enough, because I don't want to bother you by typing those brackets only. Oops. Sorry. And of course I don't need the empty line. And I don't need the empty line at the end. File. Save. So I have the new test cases. It could be more. And let's try to open them. I come here to the target. Here is my base case with the username AAA and password BBB. Right click on it. Send to intruder. The intruder is enlightened. Here is the values. I want to test those two positions with snipper. And I use simple list loaded from the C root directory. Here is the SQL test txt.txt, and I check, okay, it is finished. So the SQL map was working again, and I start the semi-automated test intruder. Before the start attack, I go to the options, and as you remember, here is this grep match. I clear the original values. Logged. This is one value what I want to test. Error. The other value what I want to test. And the third one was wrong username or password, so something contains wrong. And now I can start the intruder with the start attack command. And now, because of the free edition, I have many requests, 100. To be more exactly, 101 will be sent. It will take a while. So we can see our test is finished. Again, we can order the results by, for example, this locked column, and we can see the working test cases. If I substitute to the first position, it was good, but if I substitute to the second position, I was not able to log in. Let's check why. If I substitute to the second position only, for example here the apostrophe or 1 equal 1 minus minus space minus, then it is not working, because if the second part is true, but I were able to log in only if there were any user without username, but of course it cannot happen, so I was not able to log in if I put the string to the second position, so I had to use the first one, this one. Of course, in the case of the SQL map, I can do whatever I did before. So I can use, for example, the sqlmap -hh, sqlmap.py -hh, and again I can query the actual database, current db current db. Yes, I want to process. I want to use the first position, and it is A. And similarly, all the other things are working. I don't want to show all of them again.